Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how I have been blacklisted by automakers. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So first off, I know this is a video that I don't normally post on this channel or this type of video, but my channel, my rules, I'll post whatever the heck I want. So anyways, let's talk about this whole blacklisting situation. So for those of you that don't know, this second channel is, well, my second channel. This is not what I do for a living. I just post these videos for fun. My main channel and what I do for a living is reviewing cars. Now, it's not exciting and sexy like the stuff that you see on Top Gear. It's a lot more, I guess, reasonable is the word that I will use. What I basically do is I mainly go out to dealerships. I find vehicles that they have that I think that people are interested in seeing on YouTube, and I film those vehicles and post them on YouTube. And this is to help out people that are researching before they purchase a car. So it's not the most exciting thing on the planet because most of the vehicles that I review on the main channel are just regular run-of-the-mill cars, but it's definitely something that people need because with how expensive modern vehicles are, people want to know, what features does this vehicle have? What does it drive like? And, the biggest question of all, is it worth buying over other vehicles out there? And that's kind of what the main channel is all about, is just helping people that are shopping for a car. And so being a car journalist means that I'm going to have interactions with automakers, but this is actually something that is fairly recent because for most of my channel's existence, there was pretty much just like a wall between me and automakers. Like I didn't really exist to most automakers. And a big part of that is just because of where I live. I live in Utah, and Utah is just a really isolated place in general. Like just do some research about Utah. It's kind of a little bit of a weird place. And so because of this isolation, right, I wasn't going to all of the events that all these automakers were holding that other journalists might go to because, again, there was a lot of travel associated with that, and I just didn't really deem it all that important to progress my career as an automotive journalist, even though I didn't consider myself an automotive journalist. And so, again, like I said, for most of my channel's existence, there was pretty much no communication. But once I hit around 100,000 subscribers and was getting millions of views per month on the main channel, I obviously started to get noticed by automakers because they realized this random person in the middle of Utah is really popular with people that are shopping for cars. And so we should probably get to know this person to, figure out what our consumers are watching before they buy our product. And so how this relationship started is automakers started to send me cars to test on a week-by-week basis. So basically, they would send a car out to Utah, and I would drive it for a week, and then I'd post reviews on said car. And that's basically been my entire relationship with automakers to this day. I have gone to a few press events that automakers have held, I think only like 2 or 3 total. And then I did go to the Chicago Auto Show where I got to meet a few automakers. But outside of that one auto show and a few press events, that is it. I never have meetings with automakers, and I don't really have back and forth communication with automakers either. The most amount of communication that I'll get on a regular basis is basically just an email sent out to me whenever I get a press car from an automaker stating, what the car is that they're sending out to me, how much it costs, their target demographic, why they decided to create the car, all that kind of stuff. Again, just basically a media pamphlet on the car. And that's pretty much the extent of my communication and my relationship with automakers, which is pretty interesting because you'd think that I would get invited to a lot of the, launch events with new vehicles, but I just don't get invited at all. It's not a situation where an automaker reaches out to me and they're like, hey, do you want to go and review this new car that's coming out? I never get any sort of emails or anything sent out to me. And I've actually reached out to a couple automakers to basically ask to go to some of these release events because they're release events that I would just like to go to, and they never get back to me. And so this is where we're going to get into the quote-unquote blacklisting side of things. So obviously I've garnered a reputation for making some more controversial videos about the car industry and then also about automakers. I mean, I made a few videos earlier this year on the main channel talking about certain cars that weren't selling all that well and why I thought they weren't selling. And obviously the automakers in those videos were not happy whatsoever. Like in one case that I'm not going to talk about, I'm just going to kind of mention in this video, I was literally directly contacted by the automaker because they were upset about the video. And so you can see that, you know, when I'm in this situation where I'm upsetting automakers, they're not going to go out of their way to get me access to cars or to take me out to these release events. And I actually think that that is a really good thing, because this allows me to keep my journalistic integrity, unlike a lot of other car journalists. So this is where I want to kind of dive into what I see as the dark side of car journalism, the ugly side of car journalism. So most car journalists don't make a lot of money. Like, they make less than $30,000 per year. Some of them don't make any money whatsoever. And so the way that car journalists justify being car journalists is by a lot of the stuff that automakers provide. So again, the cars that automakers will send out to journalists on a weekly basis, because that literally makes it so that a car journalist doesn't have to pay for transportation. And before you guys say that I'm not paying for transportation because I get press cars, I own 5 vehicles, and most of the miles that I put on vehicles in any given year are on my personal vehicles. But aside from that, the next part of it is obviously the release events. So the manufacturers will take the journalists out to these, you know, crazy lavish experiences where there's like 5-star hotels, fine dining, and just all this stuff. And again, it's not direct pay, but at the same time, it is pay in a sense. I mean, for example, there was a recent release event. I'm not going to say what manufacturer, you guys will know if you've seen the videos, that was in Hawaii. And I can tell you that how much this automaker paid per person was probably around $15,000, $20,000 plus dollars, because it's Hawaii, right? Plane tickets are, you know, per person, you're like over $1,000, and then, you know, 5-star hotel, so you're talking, you know, thousands of dollars per night, and then the dinners and all the other stuff. And it's probably, I'm probably even low on my estimate. It probably would be even more than that amount. But the point that I'm trying to make is the amount of money spent on journalists is absolutely insane. And so this obviously puts a lot of journalists in a situation where they can't actually be honest about the cars that they're reviewing, because if they say anything bad about those cars, then boom, they're in the Ben Hardy situation, right? Where they don't get invited to these events. And again, with most journalists not making a lot of money, like, that's the big perk of the job. And I honestly find this really crappy, because when I got in car journalism, I thought this was going to be about reviewing cars, being honest about these cars, and helping people pick out the exact car that met their needs the most, right? But in reality, car journalism is this game of journalists trying to milk automakers for as much as they can, and automakers kind of doing the same. Again, it's kind of like this back and forth where it's like, hey, how nice of a hotel can you give me? And then the automaker is like, well, how nice of a review can you give me? It's just this thing. And it makes me super cynical about the whole industry. But what I do want to say is a bit of a positive is, with the explosion of YouTube and car review YouTube, I feel like it has made journalists a little bit more honest, because YouTube is a platform where you can make enough money that the stuff that the automaker provides isn't really all that shiny anymore. Again, with a lot of the traditional journalists where they're not making any money at all, anything the automaker provides, it's like, it's got a lot of value. But if you run a YouTube channel that's making a boatload of money, then like, if an automaker says, hey, we'll take you to this 5-star resort and all this other stuff, you're going to be like, cool, I could get that myself if I wanted to, and I've decided that I don't want to do that. And so in summary, I have been quote unquote blacklisted by automakers because of some of the content that I publish, but that's never going to prevent me from publishing content like that in the future, because I think that journalism is all about integrity. And I think that's a big part of the reason why my main channel is at the, you know, subscriber count and view count that it's at now, and why it is growing at the rate that it's growing, because people see that I'm not afraid to hurt feelings, to talk about reality, not some sort of distorted reality that has been created because of some sort of relationship, right, between an automaker and a journalist. And, you know, something else that I should mention is, I think another part of why I don't get invited to these release events is because I don't really try to get invited to these release events. A big part of, you know, getting into the whole, you know, journalist machine, I guess is what I'll call it, is, you know, regularly meeting with automakers. So going to every single auto show, right? That's a big reason why a lot of car journalists will go to all of the auto shows. And then obviously contacting the automakers and going, hey, you know, basically bring me to this event, right? And just constantly contacting the automakers. And this is why a lot of people get put on the list for these events, is because they're constantly reaching out to the automakers. And again, I just don't value the release events as much as other people, because when it comes to the 5-star hotels and the fancy dining and all that kind of stuff, again, for me personally, I could do that whether I had an automaker paying for it or not. And so I don't really care for that side of things. And then when it comes to early access to the cars, yeah, I mean, that's nice, but at the same time, the vehicles that I get from dealerships, I think are superior to the vehicles that automakers provide, because when an automaker provides a car at a certain location, it basically creates this whole situation where all those journalists are competing with each other with the content that they're posting, because all the thumbnails are going to look the same and all of the videos are basically going to be the same. Even though it's different people posting the videos or posting the articles, they're all filmed on the same day and they're filmed with the same information from the automakers. And so everything's the same there. Whereas with the videos that I post, I have no competition, because I'm the only person at that dealer on that day filming that car. And I don't have an automaker sitting there telling me, what to say in the video, right? I'm deciding what I'm going to say in the video. And so I think it just makes the content better. And frankly, another part of it is when I post my video, I'm, just post my video whenever I post it, versus when these other journalists post their videos, they all post them on the same exact day. So again, they're also competing with each other from that perspective as well. And so, yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say at the end of this video is I actually like the position that I'm in, because I can be honest, and on top of being honest, I get just as much access, if not more access, than other car journalists. And so it actually pays to not be paid off. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this whole car journalist situation, and I want you guys to let me know what you think about the content that's associated with release events. Like, now that you know that these journalists are put in 5-star hotels and given fine dining and all this other stuff, like, do you still trust what they're saying about the cars, or do you just not care? Do you just want to see the features of the cars? Because I definitely think there's a group of people that only cares about seeing the features of the cars. But when it comes to like getting a real opinion on whether or not you should buy a car, would you actually trust any of the journalists that are going to these events? I'd be interested to hear on that. I'll see ya.